Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this lesson, I want to talk about the importance of being extremely clear with directions for other people and explaining things, and also give you some pointers on how to do it. Now, before I dive in, if you haven't yet subscribed or followed me, I encourage you to do so. That way you get all the various lessons that I put out right when I put them out, which is pretty much daily. All right. So without further ado, let's dive into this. So first off, what do I mean by this? I think this is something that one of my mentors, Kevin Undergaro, taught me at AfterBuzz TV is you always have to kind of explain why something, right? So one of the first things when giving instructions to somebody, if you explain to them why they're doing something, they're going to be much more apt to do it and do it correctly because they understand the significance of this. One of the big kind of examples of this that I absolutely love is that Disney, in their parks, they are notoriously one of the best parks for handicapped people. And so when designing the parks, they're extremely tough in the design phase, but the way it's explained to them from the bosses is that when someone goes there, let's say it's a father who's in a wheelchair, they don't want the father to be reminded that, or the daughter of, to think like, oh, this is my father in a wheelchair. They just want them to have a father-daughter moment, no different than any other able-bodied person would. They want to essentially level the playing field, right? They want to have that magical moment for everybody, because it's Disney. I think that to me is just so wonderful. And when you explain it like that, the employees really rise to the occasion because the why is strong. So you want to always explain the why of it, why it's important that you're giving this. Because I think a lot of times when we give direction to somebody, they think we're just barking orders and things like that, and especially if it seems mundane or tedious, when in actuality, there's thought behind it. Now, it's time-consuming in a sense to have to explain those things, but when you do, the results are going to be that much better, okay? And then the other side of it, you want to be as clear with what you're looking for, right? So you got to start with the why you're having someone do something in terms of the directions. But then also given the very specifics, what are the deliverables if I was like an example, right? When I did my movie, and let's say the stuff that I emailed to the colorist, I gave him very specific direction as like, I'm looking for, here's the color palette, here's reference photos, X, Y, and Z, right? Oftentimes, let's say someone's making changes to my website. I'll take screenshots of my websites and I'll go in Photoshop and I'll circle this part, I want nudged a little bit this way, change this color, put this here, and, I'll provide examples of other websites of like, hey, put this little kind of widget section into here, blah, blah, blah. I make it very specific. Again, it takes me time. Oftentimes, like I've literally spent like a day just creating notes for somebody for certain projects. But if it's a big project, then that makes sense because they have clear marching orders, and that day that I spent saves, I can't even count the hours, the days, perhaps even months sometimes, really, in that sort of process because they know what they're doing. And I think a lot of times we give very vague directions. And I think this is important everywhere, but especially as creatives. In the collaborative form, we have to, no matter what we do, we have to collaborate with people, right? It could be a musician with a publicist, and the musician telling the publicist what they're looking for. Like if you aren't clear with what you're after, then there's just too much room for interpretation. People can't read your mind, and then when the results come back in, you can't be upset. For example, I'm guilty of this just like everybody else. I was teaching somebody, a close friend of mine, to basically edit audio. And so I said, hey, I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to send you 2 pieces of audio, and I want you to practice on them. And for whatever reason, this was interpreted as he's going to download the pieces of audio, and then when he comes back in next time, then we'll work on it, And it was like, no, the whole idea was I sent them so you work on them at home for yourself, and then I check it when you get here. Now, I can't be mad. Something was like, I could be frustrated, sure, but that doesn't do me any good because at the end of the day, I wasn't as clear as I should have been. And, I think a lot of us get frustrated and then just kind of come to the standstill ultimately because no one's achieving what they want. Yeah, like my whole goal was to send 2 pieces of audio to my friend, to have them take that audio and do all the things that we had done and learned the day that I was with him. So that way I could check, that he did it correctly and he would have that practice away from me. That didn't happen. But I should have clearly specified, I want you to take this, download it, and do X, Y, and Z with it like we did during our lesson. So that way when you come back, I can check that you did it correctly. Right? A lot more clear. Again, it takes a little, that's the thing. We don't do this because we think it takes more time. And it does, like I'm saying, it does take time, but ultimately it makes the process smoother in the end. Okay? And that's the thing that we have to realize is that like us cleaning up or then backtracking, like let's say this was an actual project with an actual deadline, and then it's supposed to be due Thursday, but he comes back on Tuesday and says, hey, I only did this, and it's like, wait, what? Now we're mad and now we're scrambling because we only have 2 days to do it when perhaps we had a whole week. So don't put yourself in that position by being upfront from the get-go. This is really important in all aspects of life, but especially in our creative lives as well. And the other thing, just kind of on the flip side, I'll do a whole lesson about this in the future and how I feel about this, but whenever you get directions, A, just ask for clarity if something's unclear, and B, just follow the damn directions. Really, just follow the damn directions. I mean, what's ironic to me, oftentimes, whether it's a job application or, let's say like a query for a literary agent, right? Everyone has their specific requirements and so forth of how to submit to them. And it just has come to my attention, and I'm baffled by it, by how many people just don't follow those directions because like they're trying to be, quote, creative. And it's like, no. They ask specifically what they're looking for, so give them what they're looking for. That's why the person took the time to make the requirements very specific and clear. So, and in that sense, right? So now let's flip that again. There's been plenty of times when I'm looking to hire somebody, and I do take the time to be very specific with the requirements that I'm looking for and whatever else. And there's potentially good candidates, skill-wise, that have applied, but because they didn't follow direction, I toss them. Now you could look at that as, well, I'm losing out on great talent. It's like, but no, because they're not listening and they're not following direction. If one of their things is like they're detailing oriented, well, you're not really detail oriented, right? So in that sense, it's a way to also weed out bad candidates. So, the idea of being clear and specific with what you want, just reverberates across a multitude of kind of disciplines. And so really start putting that into practice in your day-to-day. Start with, whoever you talk to, just be a little bit more specific. The time that you put into it, and it's just really having a presence of mind. The time that you put into it will make everything a lot smoother and the results that much better for you. So that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions, if I wasn't as clear as I could have been, then by all means, ask away, whether you're down in the comment section or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Of course, you're welcome to add your 2 cents. Share your opinion. Same thing. Comment down below or hit me up on social media and let's chat. I do these because, I want to present something to you, but I also want to learn from you. I learn from you as much as you learn from me. And so I appreciate that back and forth dialogue. So let's do it. The other thing before I wrap out, if you think someone would benefit from this lesson in your life, by all means share it with them. I certainly would appreciate it. But that's it for today, or at least, this episode, and I hope to see you next time.